All right. Good evening. This May 14th meeting of the Raymore Arts Commission will be called to order. Mr. Ike, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Barry.
Present.
Commissioner Richardson, absent. Commissioner Paris.
Here.
Commissioner Lawrence.
Here.
Commissioner Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Gribble.
Here.
Commissioner Setzer.
Here.
Will you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Welcome, everybody. This evening, I'll put my comments until the end, and I think we have a specific public comment this evening. Mr. Wilson, are you here? John Wilson, Director of Bands at Raymore Peculiar High School, and is here to talk about the Sounds of South Kansas City Community Band and an application for sponsorship. Welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you for letting me be here this evening. So I'm really excited. To me, this area has a real need for a community band. There's not one around this area, and I think this is just going to be a great thing. We're going to practice on Thursday nights at the high school, and then hopefully we're going to play on June 27th here at Centerview. We're going to play at Foxwood Springs. We're going to play, and we have a date for a performance in Peculiar. And then I've even got on the itinerary, hopefully we're going to be able to help out on August 24th, correct? August 24th on that day, maybe do an afternoon practice and then come play that evening for the arts. What's that? Yeah. Yes. So we talked and we met a couple weeks ago, and I've talked to Pat, and you know, the biggest thing we're going to have to do right now is just get some money maybe to help us get some music, so we have music to play at all of these events. And other than that, we've got the facilities, and I think we've talked about some different things. What all do I need to say? I just don't. I really have questions. If you have questions, I'll answer them. I'm waiting right now. My daughter's a graphic designer and a web designer, and I'm waiting for her to get me the website set up. But I have some handouts here, and I'll be glad to leave you guys some. They're not very bright or cheery now, but if we can just start getting out the word. We already have about 12, 15 people already signed up that said they want to do it, which for less than 3 or 4 days being live, I think that's pretty great. But we've got a way to sign up with a Google form where you can just click on it and that kind of thing. So, but they can also contact me, or if you guys want to set up a contact through somehow, that would be great also. So that's really just in a nutshell. We're going to ask all the members to buy a polo shirt. And we're working on a logo right now to have some kind of logo. But the idea is just to serve Raymore, Cass County, southern Kansas City with a community band, and for a way for people to further just keep playing and enjoy concert band literature and entertain the public, and a way to promote the arts in this area.
Okay, thank you. So could you tell us how many members do you anticipate the band ultimately will have?
You know, I guess my low end is I'm hoping around 40. I think
And you have 15, you say?
So far. I think that's probably a realistic number. You know, I've sent information out to the local schools. I've sent to Belton and Grandview and Harrisonville and Pleasant Hill and Archie and Adrian and Sherwood. I've sent information to all their directors and gave them a handout so they can get the information out there. What I really like to do is somehow get a contact and get interviewed in the paper. I think that would really help if we could get something in the local paper. I think that would be a big help to getting the word out there. And
But you talked about you've contacted schools, but you're really, I thought I understood that you're really looking for non-school
No,
children.
they are. I just sent to their directors to give out to like their parents and things to get the information out in their community. Yes, we want them to be graduates of high school. We don't, you know, it is mainly an adult adult community band is what we're shooting for, yes.
Okay. So your request from us is really for the, I'll say, sheet music, but I understand sometimes it's not in sheets anymore, that it's on screens. But so with that amount of money, how many band pieces would you be purchasing?
Well, it varies. I mean,
Yeah.
they're doing a lot through e-print now, where you buy the music and then you print it yourself. And that can be as cheap as $75. But if you're doing say we do, I don't know, the Music Man, a medley or something of that, but that could be $125, $130 easy for a piece of music. So it's really a wide range. I'd say somewhere between 100 or 75 and 125 per song is probably standard. Would you agree with that, Ms. Setzer?
I borrow a lot of music.
Well, and we will too. We will too. That's the goal too. You know, we have some music at our school, and that's the other reason I want to get some directors involved too, so we can have some music and borrow music too. Yes.
But your goal is like 15 pieces, is that correct?
I
of
think for a
music?
season that would be great.
And so you're starting from scratch?
Exactly.
Excuse me. So you've already scheduled rehearsals,
Yes.
and you said 3 concert times, definite,
Yes.
over the summer. Okay. Okay. Other questions? Shall we let anyone want to start, or shall I pick on Bob? You have no questions? Okay. Sharon, do you have some?
Yes. Mr. Wilson, the $1,500 to help as basically startup money for this venture, how do you propose in the future to fund any necessary changes to the compositions you might want to perform? I mean, do you anticipate that at some point there'll be some kind of fundraising mechanism for the band, or some type of fee arrangement where you charge admission to concerts? I mean, I don't assume that this is always going to be free, but that's a question I have.
I think our goal probably for the concerts would be to be free. I think we can, as we get into it this year and we see the involvement level, then to set up some kind of board, and do have ask for, specific sponsorships and get some people to help sponsor us. And then, the library will grow. And I think that, I think there's always going to be a cost for music. It's always going to be there. And I think we can set up something and ask for sponsorships and get the music that way.
What's the organizational structure of this community band? Is it a 501c3, or how is that?
Not done any of that yet.
Do you have to do that before you can actually perform? I don't know.
I have a lot of experience with community bands. No, you do not have to do that, but if you do, it makes it easier for you to get donations and sponsorships.
Right.
So almost everybody does, but this band hasn't yet met and see who their people are who can help them do those things, because John can't do all that. They need people to do that, but I presume down the line.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
The last question that I have is, of the 15, you said you had 12 to 15 signed up. I mean, is that enough to get ready for June 27th concert? I mean, I don't know anything about bands per se, so I don't know if that's enough to really make a good sounding event for that night.
We're going, we anticipate the numbers being bigger than that. The interest is there. I've heard from a lot of people, they just haven't signed up yet.
Okay.
And part of that is getting the information out, which we're still trying to do. And any way possible, we're trying to get the message out there. So I would be more surprised if we don't get enough to play than this makes. I really think it will happen. And if we have to, maybe the first year, I kind of know about 180 musicians that I can draw on to if we have to pull some of the best ones just to fill out something. So I think it's going to happen. we're going to do everything in our power to make it happen. If it doesn't, I wouldn't buy the music or do anything if we're not going to have a group that can practice. And that's really common in a community band, and like Pat has a lot of experience that you do. You know, there's some groups in the summertime, you do one practice, you play a rehearsal, you know, and so we have, and I can give you would you mind, here, everybody can have one of these. I should have passed that out at the beginning. But we actually have 1, 2, 3 rehearsals set up before our first concert. You know, and so most of these people have played, and if not, they're going to have to, you know, if they can't play something, go home and hit the music and practice it. But 3 rehearsals ought to be enough to, I think, to get it going.
Thank you.
And should be fine.
Thank you.
Lauren, you have questions? None?
No.
Okay, and Jim, do you have any questions?
No.
Pat, how about you?
How long do you anticipate the concert lasting?
I would hope 45 minutes
Okay.
would probably be a pretty good start, is what I'm shooting for.
And I'm wondering if you have enough funds and people to help you, because this needs to be advertised. We certainly don't want you to go to all this work, everybody practice, and there not be anybody at the concert. Are there figured out ways to communicate with our public or through our website to help get that word out?
We anticipate, since the Arts Commission would be sponsoring or the proposal is that this would be a sponsored event by the Arts Commission, the communications department would take on a lot of the communications, the marketing, the public relations. Obviously, you know, Mr. Wilson already has, you know, a good idea of the vision for what this is going to be, and that really is the bulk of our challenge when it comes to marketing. And so to be able to share that on our social media channels, to get that out on our weekly report and other areas where we advertise events, it would not be a problem at all.
Thank you for clarifying that. Oh, excuse me.
You know, and we talked a little bit, one of the goals too down the line is when the new facility is built over here, be a great place. You know, maybe we are you know, maybe it's more of a Raymore community band type thing where we have a regular schedule, just however many a summer. That would be my goal and my hope if we can get to that point.
Yes, we look forward to the amphitheater as well.
Yes.
So just, that brings to mind, how did you come up with the name? And I mean,
Well,
why is it not more Raymore specific, I guess?
Well, because I saw a need, just not in Raymore, but there's nothing in Cass County community-wise at all. And, you know, Raytown has one, Independence, North Winds, there's a Kansas City Wind Symphony, Olathe has one, and there's just a real void in this area, and I thought we could pull in from all areas, you know, regions around there. And so, you know, I thought maybe with the sounds of South Kansas City that we could pull in from more areas as well. Why are we doing just a Raymore community band? That kind of my thoughts. And I like the name. I mean, you know, I was sitting here, we were brainstorming, me and some of my assistant directors and different people talking about names. And when we came up with this one, we all kind of said, hey, we like the name. So you want a name that's kind of catchy that people can remember and associate with.
Okay, Bob.
And I'm not, I don't know much about community bands, so is this something that happens basically just during the summertime and then goes away, comes back the following summer? Is that how this works?
Yes. Right now, that's the what we're thinking. I mean, for the first few years, for sure. I could see that, you know. There are community bands that meet like just during the school year, but I don't think we'll be that type of community band. I think we'll be more of the summer. And there's, you know, there's other opportunities to play too through that, so.
Okay, Sharon.
One final question. This is more for Mike, I think. The venue at Centerview, were we in thinking that it was be along the outside Or is this supposed to be an inside concert?
We were envisioning this as an indoor concert.
And we don't have any concerns about the acoustics? I thought we always seemed to have concerns about the acoustics.
When we toured the facility, and Mr. Wilson, was there as well, I mean, there didn't seem to be any concern.
I think we're okay.
Okay, thank you.
So all that you would require there are some risers to make a stage, is that correct?
Yes.
And not any backdrop to improve the,
No, I don't
Okay.
think we'll need one.
okay. Just, and this is a little personal maybe, but you're playing at Foxwood Springs. Are you aware of the number of musicians at Foxwood Springs that can perhaps play in this band?
Yes,
Have
no,
you
we're
been
going to
in
get
contact with
information
them?
out there, yes.
Okay, because I just talked to some today and they didn't know about this, so.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I have talked to him, and I'm going to send over a flyer
Okay, great.
either tomorrow or Thursday. I'm going to get it to him
Okay, terrific.
as soon as possible.
Yeah, because I think, we're here for the city of Raymore. So
Absolutely.
the more Raymore people you can, as I think you are too. So we'll hope, and good luck with all this. Any other questions, comments, whatever at this point? Okay, well, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your ideas.
And I'm easy to get a hold of, john.wilson at raypeck.org, or call the high school if you need me any more questions. I'll be happy to answer them, or whatever you need me to do. If you need info, let me know, and I'll get
Okay.
it for you. Okay?
Thanks very
Thanks.
much. Thank you. So next we come to committee updates. Bob, do you want to talk about the Public Art Committee a little bit?
Yeah, it was pretty brief. This happened on May 2nd. We got together and discussed just a few things. One of the first was the next artist who's going to be, is it in June that Ethan's going to be here?
Correct.
Okay, he's a senior at high school?
Correct.
Ethan Holman will be presenting his work out here in the Chamber Galleries. We approved him after looking at some fine samples. We also discussed the option of selling more Adirondack chairs for the pop-up art for Summer Scene coming up here in August. And we're just looking for a good chair and a good price. And lastly, we discussed best practices in presenting future projects before the commission. And that was pretty much it. Any questions?
Well, and a recommendation from the Public Art Committee regarding J.P. Daniels.
Does that need to happen here? I thought that was going to happen later. Yes, we do have before you soon updated, edited, the requested changes that the overall commission asked for will be presented to us later, and we'll have a vote on that today.
And we did have a discussion about that at the meeting, so.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Any questions? No? Lauren, performance art, we kind of just,
We didn't have our regularly scheduled meeting. We didn't really have anything that we felt like we needed to talk about, so we went ahead and skipped our regular meeting. We did have a quick meeting here just to kind of discuss his presentation, so.
Sharon, you have anything to add to the extensive list of,
No, we're on track for June and July, and doing something at Summer Scene. Haven't really figured that out yet, but there'll be something to do. So I don't have anything further to report.
well, I do want to say thanks to Laura for, although she's not here, for the rock painting, which was great fun, both places, the actual workshop, and then Melissa, thanks for getting us together for the 5K and getting all the rocks, and Sharon for bringing the paint. And really, it was pretty cold out there, but I think we had a pretty fun hour or so of rock painting with some of the kids who showed up, whether they were all that eager to be out on that 5K walk run or not. I think they had a good time painting rocks. And Melissa, thanks for the Paint and Sip organization again, too, as well. Any questions regarding education and events, or is everybody clear on what comes next? Okay, all right. So we will go to staff reports. Mike, you're going to start with budget? Okay.
Wanted to just point out to the Arts Commission a minor change in the budget because we are moving forward or had moved forward in our last meeting with the Rec Park mural. I did include that in the budget. It is in that light blue line. The reason I wanted to call it out is because it is technically not part of your annual operating budget of $20,000. It was $3,000 that was left over from the previous year that had been placed into a restricted fund. And so technically for this year's operations, we have $23,000, and that $3,000 is restricted just to that Rec Park mural. And so I wanted to at least have something in the budget for you to look at that reflects moving forward, that since the Public Art Committee had originally approved the mural artwork, we did make that initial payment to JT Daniels for the work on the concept artwork. And then as we move forward, we'll be making a second and third payment to him based on the work as we move forward. As for the rest of the items on the budget, they're pretty straightforward. The only changes are in the Family Art Days. We updated the information to reflect the most recent Family Art Day events, as well as the classes and programming for adults. We reflected the $71 from the Bob Ross Paint event, which was a very big success. That does it for the budget update. The only other update I wanted to give was we did have, if you had the opportunity to watch the council meeting from 2 weeks ago, we did present the ETC survey results. I know some commission members were interested in those results. If you have the opportunity to see that, you can visit our website for the full video. I do also have full copies of the ETC report if there is, if you'd like a hard copy to view those results. Certainly well worth the time to look through some of the satisfaction items or satisfaction results from our residents that pertain to a whole host of different areas within the city. Final item I have from a staff report is we do have some terms expiring here in the next month. Commissioner Richardson, Commissioner Lawrence, and Commissioner Gribble all have terms that will be expiring. I do not need an answer tonight, but certainly if you would like to continue serving, and I would encourage you to continue serving, let me know. We would like to have that before the City Council for renewal of those terms and reappointments in June, so that'll be coming up quickly here.
And will you convey that to Commissioner Richardson since she's not here this evening?
Absolutely.
And in terms of the budget, the paint and sip, are we planning another couple of those through the rest of the fiscal year? Is there, and is that the only, wasn't there a previous event, and do we not have any, I'm looking at Melissa for this, but expenses?
We did not have any expenses.
So
I don't remember the
We have not had a.
This was the first one
Right.
of the
Okay.
year, so we hadn't
Okay.
done a paint and sip. It was last fall that we
Okay,
last one.
okay, it was
yes.
in last fiscal year then. Okay. So are we planning another one for this fiscal year?
If you would like me to, I will. Mhm.
Okay, so,
Yes. Well, I guess I'll defer this until we review any type of budget changes, but if we cut that particular, well, I mean, basically it's self-funding if we have another paint and sip, so we shouldn't really have too much to worry about in that regard. Okay, thank you.
okay, any other questions about the budget, or we can pick up the report from you afterwards then?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, summer scene?
Sure. So I've been continuing planning. I don't know if you've seen, finally have it up on the website, a little flyer out, a little poster design. And our vendor applications have started coming in, so that's really great. And Sharon and Lauren will be on the committee, so we'll be meeting in the next few weeks to move forward with our plans.
Quick question, Melissa, and I can't remember what the application states, but do we have an age minimum for, I know we've had young artists in the past participate, but I don't remember if there is an age restriction on
I would not
applications?
have an age restriction. I
Okay.
mean, not 4 years old, but.
No,
yes,
but I didn't know.
I
if-
would, I encourage young people
Okay.
to apply.
Because I have had conversations with younger people, and I just want to make sure I'm not misstating something.
Sure.
Okay.
Other questions about summer scene from Melissa? Thanks as always for all your good work. All right, now we come to the consent agenda. The minutes from the April meeting, you received in your packet. Are there any corrections or additions? I did notice that the, and I'm not pulling this up on it, but the minutes don't reflect the same report as the Public Art Committee. The motion that we approved talked about going back to JT Daniels for, the only change we were asking for was a sports-related inclusion in that. And to me, the minutes didn't reflect, the commission minutes didn't reflect that, but the other minutes that we had about, the other comments that you had about JT Daniels' work did. So I'm satisfied if you think that's appropriate without changing the minutes, as long as that other stuff is included as part of the packet of the minutes. For
If you would like to make an edit to reflect that during the, I'm assuming you're talking about the new business item A,
right,
reflecting that the commission voted 7-0 to send the proposal back to the committee with the instruction to the artist to include a sports theme or sports-related.
a sports-related.
If you would like to propose an amendment to the minutes and then vote to add that amendment to the minutes, we certainly can, and then approve the minutes from that amended version.
All right, then I would entertain the motion that we amend the minutes to reflect that very small caveat that we approved, that we sent back to the Public Art Committee, or the request that they request from JT Daniels, inclusion of a sports item in the mural.
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion on that motion? Then, all in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. And we do have a quorum, I forgot to say. But- Okay. So now we need to approve the minutes, correct?
Very good.
All right. So I ask for a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. Any discussion of that motion? Then, all in favor of that motion, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you so much. And now we go to unfinished business, approval of the revised artwork. Mike, you want to walk us through the parts of the packet that you have that apply to that, please?
Since our last meeting, JT Daniels has gone back to revise essentially and I want to make sure I get my directions right, the east wall of the concession stand at Recreation Park near the soccer fields. That east wall is the wall that specifically faces all of the soccer fields and is right there next to the park, with the west wall being the one that you see as you approach the concession stand from the parking lot. JT Daniel, the other thing I wanted to add is also in your packet are a number of mural samples. I think a question had come up about what the end mural would look like based on the sketches and renderings that he had provided. While it is sometimes difficult to totally encapsulate what his artwork looks like as a finished product, you know, the sketches try to do really the best job they can as he is putting together his ideas. But obviously there are a lot of other environmental factors, you know, the brick itself that he'll be working on that kind of becomes a character within the artwork itself. And so Commissioner Barry had actually put together these mural samples and some of the first few pages that you're viewing that have different places that he has done mural work, really kind of highlights some of the other work that he's done both inside and outside. The first image that you will see in your packet is going to be that east wall, the addition of the Play More, the soccer player, the soccer ball, as well as a few other faces in that mural is what he has done specifically to address, I believe, some of the items that the commission had asked, the full commission had asked for, and was part of the discussion by the Public Art Committee earlier this month. Below that, you'll see the west wall, which will include the same artwork that he had provided to the original Public Art Committee as well as to the full commission. Below that will then be the north wall, which is kind of the outline of the faces, the clouds near the concession stand. Again, keep in mind those two windows, while they're in service, will be completely open, and those doors are roughly about 4 feet wide, and so you have, 8 feet, 16 feet between the openings of the windows and then the doors themselves, where this artwork actually kind of gets covered up. And so his plan was that this would be something that would be simple, would be colorful, that you could still see, even though a lot of it would be obscured while the concession stands are in business. Below that, in the final picture, you'll get an idea of what he has in mind for the bathroom side. This is, it's a pretty standard bathroom wall with, the about 30 feet of space between the corners, and then the wing walls that jut out about 6 to 7 feet. Again, not a lot of open space for a lot of creativity as he has on the east and west walls, but he does provide, I think, a nice tie-in to the colors on the north wall as well as the background colors and some of the other bright colors he has on the other walls to complete the 4 sides of this mural. What the commission is specifically going to be looking at and will be considering is a couple of things. Really what we are looking for is the commission to ask, commission members to ask themselves 3 questions. One, does the artist pretend, or does the artist portray himself as a professional artist, and does he have the essentially the credentials of a professional artist? The second question that commissioners should be asking themselves is the artwork that is presented as recommended by the Public Art Committee, is it a professional piece of artwork? And 3, does the artwork represent, or does the artwork have an appropriate level of professionalism, i.e. it is not pornographic, it is not does not depict violence to such a factor that it would be just absolutely inappropriate here. Those really are the 3 factors that we should be looking at as we're looking to approve and ultimately approve this artwork of J.T. Daniels. The artist, Mr. Daniels, does apologize. He has been fighting, and I believe the rest of his family have been sharing a pretty bad virus, stomach virus, and so he has been sick the last couple of weeks. Tried to get out here as best he could, but unfortunately just had a sick child that he was unable to bring to an Arts Commission meeting here in Raymore in the evening. So was able to speak with him, was able to really talk with him through some of these changes, and also had the opportunity to have him share some thoughts with me, as well as that I could kind of convey here, as hopefully I've done well. So definitely open to any questions from the commission as we move forward.
Thanks, Mike. I think then, in order to have a final discussion on this, that we need to have a motion. So the chair, does someone want to make a motion? Bob, would you like to?
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve these edited changes and proceed with the full funding and creation of this mural.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
So we now may have discussion of that motion. Do you have any further comments in terms of the Public Art Committee's recommendation, Bob, or are you?
No, I think Mike summed it up real well. I thank JT for not bringing his sick self or his sick family here. Don't want to spread that. And I'd also like to thank him for that 4th photo, that inclusion of the restroom wall. I think that really solidifies it. Thank you.
Other questions, Sharon?
I guess I'm a little disappointed that the only change that he made was the inclusion of the soccer player and the soccer ball. To me, that is one sport only, and that rec park has baseball, skateboarding, tennis. I'm just disappointed that it was such a minor change that I don't think he fulfilled the request that we had, which was to make it sports-centered. I mean, it looks exactly the same except for the soccer player. I mean, there were absolutely no other changes that I could see, other than adding the words "play more" and the soccer ball. And while I like his art, I think it's fun, colorful, certainly professional. I mean, obviously, he's a professional, and you can see the number of things that he's done. But I thought that our goal here was to include more sports-related designs for this particular venue.
All right, Bob?
Yeah, I want to see if I can help answer this a little bit, because it was my impression that we weren't looking to make the focus of the mural sports, but in fact add an element of sports to the mural. And in that case, we encompassed at least a part of one would say a big part of the park. But you're right, we don't have, discs for disc golf or things like that. But we didn't say, hey, go put an element in each side. We said, we need to add a sports element. That was the biggest comment, was we needed, and so that's what he came back and did.
Yes, Sharon, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I know he does baseball gloves because I saw that in one of his walls that he did. He did a football helmet. I mean, I would have liked to have seen at least one more element. I mean, I wasn't saying that it should be all sports by any means, because I told you before, I love his little pop art, figures. But I was hoping for at least, a baseball, some kind of baseball reference. Because the next biggest thing in that park is baseball, not soccer. And I would venture to say that you've got more baseball players than soccer players, but maybe not. That's just my opinion.
Okay, thanks for your comment. Other discussion, comments? Lauren? No? Pat? No?
I have no words to say.
You have no discussion, okay. Well then, no further discussion, then we will vote on the motion to approve. So I'm backwards here tonight on my button pushing here, sorry. So we will vote on the motion before us. Do you want to read that back to us, Mike, or not?
Is a motion to approve the artwork as presented and recommended by the Public Art Committee.
Yes, and seconded then by Lauren, thank you. Thank you. So, all in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. The vote is 5-1. I'm sorry. Any against?
I'm
Okay.
against, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to belittle that. All right, thank you. All right. The next item on the agenda then is the new business, which is the business that we began the meeting with, the community band request for sponsorship. So I think in order to have this discussion, we probably need a motion. Is someone prepared to make a motion regarding the sponsorship? Or, I'm sorry, Mike, you have a point of order?
If you have a staff report I'd like to give just before we make the motion. Yep.
Never let me do that. Okay. Yes, please give your staff report, Mike, and then we will have a motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Really the item tonight, and while it was great to be able to hear from Director Wilson about his project and about the program, I want to make sure that as part of this staff report that we are focused on what really we are voting on tonight. We are not necessarily voting to approve of Director Wilson's band or idea. What we are truly voting on tonight is an amendment to the budget. So there are several recommendations from staff from which we will reallocate some funds, and I'll get into some more detail about that in just a second, where we'll be reallocating some of those funds to put together a sponsorship to support the band idea, or the band proposal that Director Wilson presented earlier in the meeting. And so while there may be questions about the band, and I think that the director answered them very well, and while there may, be some concerns about how that is going to be either professionally handled or how it will be handled from a musical standpoint, what we really need to be focused on here tonight is what the vote is about, is reallocating items within the budget. And within the budget, what we are recommending from staff is, as you heard from Director Wilson, that they are looking for roughly $1,500 as a sponsorship to purchase a variety of different pieces of sheet music. We already have secured a venue for one of their performances. We have also invited them to perform at Summer Scene, and it sounds like they have also selected a third performance for Foxwood Springs. The sponsorship from the Raymore Arts Commission would solely be a financial sponsorship, again, for that sheet music. What staff has identified are several program areas where we have either some additional fund balance and or areas where we don't believe we'll be spending down the entire budgeted amount that we think would make for a good area to reallocate from. We're looking to reallocate $500 from the Chamber/Centerview Art Exhibit budget. There's currently $500 budgeted, but we've not spent any of the money from that budgeted area, and I don't believe that we have no other plans to spend from that budget. There's $500 from the adult programming budget. We currently have $1,500 budgeted and have only spent about $71. Those programs have become self-sustaining, and so we don't envision spending any more out of that budget. We're looking at $150 from the professional development budget. There's $150 budgeted, but there are no other programs through the remainder of the fiscal year that we would envision spending that money on. $125 from the Family Art Days budget. There's $1,000 budgeted. Roughly $400 has been spent. And we don't envision, now that we're already halfway through the fiscal year, that we would use that full $1,000. And then there's a remaining fund balance of $225 from the Holiday Sing-Along. We would like to use the remainder of those funds to give us the full $1,500 sponsorship that we could allocate to the Sounds of South Kansas City Community Band. As was discussed during the Public Performance Committee meeting, there were some questions about how could these funds be used, what would we need in return. The commission could put stipulations on this reallocation to say that as part of a sponsorship, the director would need to make a report following the season, or would need to provide certain information, would need to come back to the commission as part of that sponsorship, and that would be perfectly, I think, a perfectly acceptable request, very similar to what the commission does with the Parks and Recreation Department and the sponsorship of the music at the farmers market, where we ask to see after the end of the season what performers have been at the farmers market, how many people did we see at the farmers market, how large of an impact did this sponsorship truly have on the arts as a whole within the community. I think that stipulation would be appropriate and would be welcome to this sponsorship as well.
Any questions of Mr. Eke? So we're clear that, I'm sorry, I beg your pardon.
No,
Mayor.
you're fine. I
Thank
just
you.
had a question as far as the allocation. I know, or at least I thought we had discussed using the professional development money for something different, but maybe I heard that wrong.
We moved some out of it already because we chose not to participate in, but we left $150 for possible future for the rest of the fiscal year.
Thank you for
Correct.
the clarification.
Sharon?
Is it possible that as part of our discussion, or I'm sorry, our approval process, do we have any opportunity to reduce the amount that we provide for sponsorship in the first year and see how it runs before we say we do half, and then say, after the first two performances, if everything meets our expectations, we could possibly give them more money? I mean, I don't know. Is that a possibility?
The concern that staff has with reducing the amount is that the money that the sponsorship, he had directly identified to the purchasing of the music for all three events. or for the variety of events. It wasn't necessarily this was a segment of the sponsorship we were going to use for performance number 1, performance number 2, and number 3. This really was to get the event started and to really get it off the ground. This was what they needed to start with.
My concern is just $1,500 for only 3 performances. I don't know enough about community bands or what happens to the music, or, I'm just concerned about what's going to happen next year. Is he going to come back again and say, well, we need to buy more music and we'd like for you to sponsor again? And I'd also like to make a condition that on any type of communication, he mentioned a website, that Raymore Arts Commission has to be on as sponsors somewhere in the tagline of anything that he puts out there.
Yeah, it's my impression that he's actually asking more for startup money than he is for these 3 concerts. We're actually getting the ball rolling. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so don't think of it as, that's $500 a pop. Instead, it's just starting, and then these, and Pat, maybe you can answer this. Maybe these are sheets that they hang on to for next season as well, and the following season, or do they have to turn them back in?
Patriotic music you just keep forever and ever. I've been a member of one community band for 27 years, another one, I just finished the 19th season. I'm a member of a 3rd group, and he asked me to play in this one Monday, and I said, okay. Bands, trade, music, tons. We don't run out and buy tons of stuff, and I think this is a very good thing for the community, and I want to see it happen, but I have great reservation about taking all the money you have left to put in this. This is a lot of money, and frankly, I have a couple $1,000 worth of music sitting at my house that I've used with my bands, which I could drag down the road to their school. He contacted lots of band directors. We all have libraries, and we can all contribute a lot. He needs some money to buy some things. He's going to have some money to transport his equipment and some other expenses. But the music, we can take care of an awful lot of those things within the community. We all trade all the time. I'm forever shuttling music back and forth. I spent half my life doing that. We all do it. That's how it works. You don't go and everybody buys every piece and they own every piece. You can't afford that. No one can. This is how it's worked forever.
Do we need to have a motion?
Yes.
Before we have more discussion? So, I guess does someone have a motion to make, or? Yes, Sharon.
Just to clarify again, the motion that we have put forth tentatively is to provide a $1,500 sponsorship, and how he spends that money, we have no control over. Is that correct?
We could place stipulations on that
That's what I wanted to
sponsorship.
know. So perhaps our recommendation or our motion would be crafted so that the motion would stipulate that perhaps not all the money go to buy music. I don't know how to do that.
Mr. Zweig.
Jonathan Zer, if I could, real
Yes.
quickly. I believe you're also looking for this motion to incorporate the reallocation of the funds as were budgeted. So your motion would be to provide you would be proposing to provide a sponsorship for the community band by reallocating the funds as identified in staff report for purposes of either purchasing sheet music or whatever additional conditions you might want to place upon that, and that could include a report back at the conclusion of the 3 concerts for purposes of updating this commission on what the turnout was and what the results of the usage of funds were. That would simply be legal suggestion.
That was a very thorough suggestion. And actually, would anyone care to take legal counsel's words per se and make that into a motion? There was only one part of that that you said we might do.
Any of the additional requirements that you place on it are entirely within, pretty much in your discretion. So reporting back, allocation specific for what it's going to be utilized for, that's within the commission's discretion to decide what additional requirements they want to impose upon the utilization of the funds. The important part would be your motion would be to approve the sponsorship of $1,500, and as part of that, reallocating the funds from the budget as suggested by staff.
All right. Does anyone want to make a motion based on legal's advice in terms and wording, which would include $1,500 and reallocating as staff has recommended? Is anyone prepared to make that motion?
I'll make that motion. I move that we approve to a $1,500 scholarship, $1,500 sponsorship, and a reallocation of the budget to provide funds under that $1,500 as was discussed by the staff for the purpose of funding the proposed ban by John Wilson in the meeting tonight.
So moved.
Well, I think I have a motion.
Second.
Thank you. All right. Now, discussion of that motion. Does anyone want to start with this discussion? Sharon.
Well, I'm still very concerned that we should have something written to provide to Mr. Wilson that once we've approved the sponsorship, that here are the benchmarks that we expect to see for our sponsorship and whatever we might decide if that's appropriate.
And that would be a perfect task for your performance art committee or public performance committee to draft and have prepared.
And Mike, would that come before we give him official word? I mean, do we have to do that like tonight?
My recommendation would be to move forward with the business that is at hand tonight with the sponsorship, have the chair recommend and task the public performance committee with drafting guidelines and possible memorandums of understanding or draft that could then be used for future sponsorships and future items, including the farmers market sponsorship and other areas.
Council?
I would absolutely agree with Mr. Icky. That would be a great policy to create. If you were inclined, you could amend your motion this evening simply to have this particular item referred back to the staff or to the committee for its addition of whatever is going to be attached to it on this item as well.
Thank you.
So do you want to amend your motion of the suggestion that he made to include that in your motion,
Okay.
that it be referred back to the...
And point, you wouldn't need to amend the motion as currently stated. This would just be, as the Public Performance Committee comes up with its rules, we would be able to amend those later at a later meeting
Okay.
to the sponsorship.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? I guess then I'll go last. To me, to take our budget, to pare our budget down from in five different categories to when we have 5 months left of the fiscal year, I question stripping away all the funds from, for example, the exhibit program and family art days. It doesn't give us, it seems to me, a lot of wiggle room in our budget. It's $1,500 out of $20,000, $23,000 tonight, but which is a pretty big percentage on something that we've had very little time to think about. And we don't have any hard evidence that it's, I mean, not that I don't have confidence in Director Wilson, that's not it, but it's a very tight schedule, and we're being asked to make a decision on a very large part of our budget on very short notice. It occurs to me also in thinking about $1,500, and actually what he's asking for is scores. And he's saying that scores are an average of $100 apiece, so that's 15 scores. The concert's going to be 45 minutes by his estimation. So we just bought 15, or we would be sponsoring and paying for 15 3-minute pieces of music performance, which, according to Commissioner Setzer, is probably available for very little, if no money, from shared resources. So that is my. I just have problems in terms of the amount of money that we're talking about, the amount of time that we've been given to think about it, and the actual, is it right out there, and can it happen that fast? Bob?
Yeah, it's a question for staff. Is this something that we can decline today and put on our agenda next month? Is this something that we can postpone, basically?
We do
Since-
not have a meeting next month.
That's
We have a
what we've got
work
the
session.
workshop. Okay. I kind
Sharon.
of share
Oh.
your, I'm sorry, I just kind of share Harriet's, this has just happened. It's not, I don't want to write a check every time someone, even though I love Mr. Wilson as well, so comes up and requests funds and immediately do that. It puts me a little on edge as well, so I'm a little hesitant.
Okay, thank you. Lauren?
Yeah, I'll say that I have some trepidation about it, same as everyone else does. However, there's opportunities for us to get behind this, and while we don't have a lot of time, there still is time to get behind, to help support, promote in any way we can to make this successful. This is not the first event of this type that has ever been put on in a short period of time. And I think if we're going to put our dollars behind it, that we get behind it from a support standpoint. I don't think that any of our questions or concerns or anything like that aren't warranted. And I think that they're very valid in going, not only for this event, but going forward. But I think that we have to get started somewhere. These are opportunities that are presented in front of us that could grow to something larger, or at the very least, this is something that we could say that we championed in the beginning as it grows its own legs. So I think that, yeah, it's $1,500 of our money, but I think if we get behind it and support it, that we're giving it an opportunity to do well.
Anybody else? Discussion? No? Then, the motion is before us. Do we need to repeat the motion? Anybody? That we are reallocating funds as the staff suggested is sort of the essence of the motion. All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3. All opposed? 1, 2, and 1 abstention? I think the motion does not pass. Does someone want to make an alternative motion at this point? Would that be Sharon?
I do agree that the thought of having a community band is quite appealing. I think it's needed, as our community said that music was like top of the priority list for what they want to see. But perhaps, we could look to do something for the summer scene where we I mean, I have a real problem giving $1,500 and expecting something by June 27th. But I'd like to support him in some way, and perhaps maybe we could come up, because we've got this time constraint, maybe we could give it, for our next meeting, have another proposal and have something ready for Summer Scene, a sponsorship at that point in time. That's my only thought.
Well, we are scheduled not to have a commission meeting in June, so it would
Be
be...
July.
It would be our July meeting. That would be the next time we could consider that kind of thing. And we do have a full commission meeting in July, as well as the work session with City Council, correct? Okay, so we would have, and that would be 6 weeks before Summer Scene. Is that about right? August 23rd? Am I correct in the 24th? So we would have 6 or 7 weeks after our July meeting to allocate something towards Summer Scene. Any other questions or suggestions from Lauren? No? All right. Then it is time for commissioner comments. May I start with you, Bob, as always? Sorry.
No comment. Thank you.
Sharon?
No comment tonight, thank you.
Okay. Lauren?
No comment.
No comment.
No comment.
And I have given my comments already, but thank you all for being here and for going through a rather rigorous meeting. And if anyone wants to give input into next month's work session, then get to me and Mike in the next week or so, because we'll be getting together to plan that before too long. Thank you all for all your good work and patience. This meeting is adjourned. I'm